I had come to the point where I was like, I think I want to break up with him.
Break up with him. Break up with him.
Hello and welcome back to our channel. We are Ruth and Thomas, and we are on a year-long journey to go on 52 unconventional dates.
Today, we felt like since it's kind of stormy outside, it would be a perfect time to tell you our tumultuous part 2 of our love story. If you haven't seen part 1 yet, I'm gonna link it right here. Ding! And make sure you go watch that first, because that will make this video make a lot more sense.
And if you haven't yet, please consider subscribing to our channel right down here.
So you don't miss any of our videos and crazy shenanigans.
That's right.
So the last time we left you with Thomas asking me to be his girl.
And she said yes.
I said yes. And immediately after that, like
she regretted it.
No. Literally 2 days after he asked me out, I was in Texas for the summer. Once a week, we were able to do a Skype call.
It was the thing that I looked forward to all week long. So while she was off having grand adventures down in Texas, I was in Kirksville, Missouri, working maintenance, doing all kinds of repairs around campus and stuff. So all I did all day was look for broken bricks in our pavement and replace them.
Daydream about me. It's a weird way to start a relationship, being hundreds of miles apart and not having much access to talking to each other.
We had to creatively try to connect with each other without being in close proximity.
He did a really good job at that. The letters he wrote were so cute. Like, for example, he would get red wax somehow and make his own seal on the envelope, or like he would burn the edges of the letter to make it look aged. I wonder if I can find some. Can I go look real quick?
Sure.
I just want to show you maybe 1 or 2 examples of these epic letters.
Oh no.
Let's see if I can find it. Okay, I
found it. That's a lot of notes.
Yeah, so this is the jar that I kept with all his letters to me. Like, look at these. He would like bind them with twine. They were so beautiful. Here's an example.
Oh.
He would burn the edges to make them look aged. He drew a picture of us on our first date, arms around each other. The raccoon coming to steal our bag.
It's kind of fun just reminiscing. Oh, is that Ruby?
We should go through all these sometime. Because we weren't able to talk to each other very much that summer, this was like a really unique, thoughtful way to get to know each other. And he would ask me lots of really good questions. Yeah, you were almost better at writing than talking sometimes.
Yeah, I have a harder time like communicating thoughts and ideas, verbalizing them. Writing really helps.
So we got back, or I got
She
back
got back from
camp.
Texas.
We started our senior year of college. We were kind of trying to balance like school and friends and this new relationship.
I'd never dated before, so it was hard to figure out what romance looks like.
I was his first girlfriend.
I had thought that you have to be big and grand and extravagant, but I also knew that Ruth is a pretty chill, relaxed, cool gal. And so when she came back from camp, I didn't want to intimidate her and scare her
with your intensity.
With intensity. So I just was like, "Oh, you want to go on a date? Sweet. What do you want to do?"
Oh my God.
And she hated that.
Yeah, he would come to pick me up at my dorm, mind you, usually at least 20 to 30 minutes late. And then I would be all ready to go, all dressed up. I'd jump in the car, so excited, like, where is he gonna take me? And he'd be like, "So where do you want to go?" And I'd be like, "You didn't plan anything?" So after a while of this, I started to feel like he wasn't putting a lot of effort in, or like he didn't care. I guess it came to a bit of a head and we had an argument, and I said, "I just feel like you're not putting that much effort in." And he was like, "I need to show you something."
If you've seen our part 1 video, it was the same location where I said, we should have a picnic here someday.
So he took me back out to that spot. We got out of the car. We went down into this ravine. It's like pitch black. And I'm like, are you going to murder me? Is this where I die? He leads me along this like little creek bed. And all of a sudden we come upon this little clearing. He has constructed this makeshift table for me in the middle of the woods.
One time I was out on a run, ran by that same spot, saw the creek, and thought, I want to see what's back in there. And I was walking and I saw this little outcropping of land in the middle of this creek, and I thought this would be a nice romantic spot to have a picnic. On my way walking in, I had seen this big concrete slab, buckets I had just seen, kind of trash, but I had assembled it in a way that I thought was cute, and made a stone table with 2 chairs on other sides, and then had put some rocks and things leading out into it so you could walk from one side of the creek to the other.
All this time that I thought he was not making thoughtful dates, you know, wasn't making plans, he had been building this table for me in the woods so that eventually he could make dinner for me and have this super romantic candlelit dinner in the woods. So I was very touched by that and realized like he is putting a lot of thought and effort into this. Sometimes I just don't see it.
And I don't know how to communicate it. At this point, I'm better off writing letters. I'm better at building things and constructing things. I'm better at writing poems. I can't talk or emote feelings or thoughts.
Yeah.
And I think that was more intimidating to me. There was even one specific moment where it was late at night and I said, Ruth, I'm starting to fall in love with you. I think I love you. And she said, yes, I appreciate you a lot too.
I think I said thanks.
You said thanks. Thanks, that means a lot. I appreciate you too.
I appreciate you too.
So that was probably September, October time period. And then November came around and we were experiencing again some of the same doubts and hesitations and frustrations and just lack of communication. That was the biggest issue. You would over communicate and tell me every doubt that you had, every frustration, every worry, which was good but sometimes hurtful. And then I wouldn't communicate to you my own thoughts, doubts, worries, insecurities. I would just kind of bottle it up and feel like you were attacking me.
Right.
And that was unfair.
I think that was something I definitely didn't understand at that point, how impactful my words can be and my tone.
Yeah.
I think I just kind of had a lack of respect for him in the way that I spoke to him. I didn't realize that me telling him all these things that I had issue with were things that would stick with him for a long time. I think I came out of that really understanding the power of words.
I think that's the biggest thing we want to hit today, is just when you are in any relationship, you are a team. Whether it be a friendship, a partnership, a marriage, no matter what it is, you are connected with another person to try to build each other up and move forward as a couple.
I also think that one of the biggest sources of conflict between us, even today in marriage, is like the difference between expectations and reality. Growing up, we were told to have high standards, which is great.
A good thing.
A good thing, a good thing. But to the point where I was told many times to like make a list of all the things you want in a future husband and then ask God for those things and like hold to those standards. It's good to have, you know, those standards of like, I want a husband that like follows the Lord and his life is centered around that.
Values. It's good to have the values
yeah,
you want to be.
Hardworking, or, you know, I got really specific. I had things like is good at card games, or has like large hands that are not sweaty, or
you sound like personal attacks.
Can pack.
I'm just saying.
No. I love your hands.
Am I bad at card games?
No, I'm just saying these were things that were on my list, like plays the piano, or can pack a trunk really well. Like this ridiculously specific stuff. And eventually I had such a specific image of who that was supposed to be, that when this like perfect man for me, you're not perfect, but you're perfect for me. When this perfect man for me came along, like I didn't even recognize it because I was so blinded by my own expectations. Looking back, I'm like, how arrogant it was to think that who I thought was best for me was really who would be best for me. And not trusting that, you know, the Lord might have someone different. I'm getting on my soapbox. But I think that was, in the beginning, really hard for us as we dated.
We were fighting probably once every 2 weeks.
Yeah. We fought a lot. It's just interesting looking back at how rocky our relationship was in the beginning. Yeah. And most people would tell you that's a bad sign. Like if you're already fighting during dating, then, you know, maybe you guys shouldn't be together. But it was really interesting. My two best friends never once wavered that we were supposed to be together. I have so much respect for them that they were able to see past like our petty arguments and see that we were really, truly compatible. Because I remember like having conversations with them and being like, guys, we fight all the time. I don't even really know if I like Thomas. Basically just wanting them to say, maybe you should break up. Sort of like searching for that. And every time they would be like, no, we think you guys are gonna make it through this. And they would just pray with me and talk with me through this. Sarah and Tiffany. Cannot thank you guys enough for how much you believed in us.
But there were a lot of good things in our relationship as well, and we were working together towards those ends. We prayed a lot together. We talked about mutual goals and ideas of what we wanted our lives to look like. We talked about where we would live, what we wanted to do for a career path. And then February rolled around, and in the middle of February comes Valentine's Day. I did this kind of big, extravagant show of love. I had made the downstairs, the basement of the house that I was living in, really cute and kind of set up some curtains.
So cute, unbelievably cute. His basement was disgusting and dark, but he cordoned off this section of the basement, hanging like blankets from the ceiling, and then he set up a couch in there, a TV in there. He had like an ice bucket with wine. He had all my favorite snacks, like jalapeno poppers.
All the junk food that you could imagine.
It was so sweet.
The next day or the day after that was kind of this moment where for you it was like, you might be more invested in this than I am.
I'm not ready.
I think you just felt like you weren't ready.
We took a break.
It was 9 days. It was a 9-day separation.
Wow. You remember?
Yeah, it was a 9-day separation, and within the next few weeks after that, we got back together and you were in a pretty good headspace. I was talking to my mentor at the time. He thought the same way, similarly that I thought, and he felt like his wife felt similarly the way Ruth did. And so he'll help me kind of communicate and just say like, hey, I see areas of concern and I know how to address them from my background and understanding, and you do too.
During that time, I was also being discipled. Hearing her relationship was actually really impactful for me as well. It was the first time I'd heard a story of we fought for a long time. I had a lot of doubts, and then I realized that he was the one for me and we're getting married. And I was like, wow, I didn't know stories like that exist. Like, I had never heard of someone who had had similar struggles to us. So I think that was really helpful for me as well. So anyway, we got back together at that point. I was in a good place, feeling much better. These breaks always seem to like give me time to have perspective and to pray over it. And then the good old Bachelor finale was on. And this was Ben Higgins' season, if you remember, which was a monumental season because in the end he tells not one, but two girls that he loves them, which it's an unspoken rule in that show that you're not supposed to say I love you if you're the Bachelor.
The whole episode is about the word love.
So I guess it put me in the mood because that night I told him for the first time that I loved him. Okay, even though that sounds terrible, like, The Bachelor put me in the mood just to tell you I love you because whatever. Maybe it showed me that I already did love you.
Yes.
You know, like seeing how they talked about it and what love meant to them. And I was like, oh, I feel that way about him. I care about him. Like, I want the best for him. I care about his future. Realizing those things, it was like, oh, I do love this guy.
Inspired by The Bachelor. Thank you, Ben Higgins. We would not be together without you. Yeah.
We graduated in May of 2016.
And we moved down to Camp Eagle in Texas.
We went there together to work for the next year and a half.
Our time at camp was really good because it forced us to kind of take a step away from everything we had known in the Midwest and rebuild a community, reestablish our own priorities and values, and really see if it's just me and you in the middle of the wilderness, are we compatible for eternity?
Yeah, and working at camp is interesting.
Eternity, our lifetimes.
Working at camp is interesting because you see the best and the worst in each other. You have really hard days, you're really dirty and smelly, and like you are forced to work together in a lot of different stressful situations.
It really helped solidify some old truths that trials and challenges are a good thing. Having someone challenge your ways of thinking and your beliefs and your thoughts and the way you process the world, having that opposition only causes you to grow more. The example of the tectonic plates seemed to resonate more with us and in our relationship. So if you imagine a tectonic plate it's in motion, you can just kind of stay the course and stay consistently going in a straight line. But if you meet an opposing force and if you meet someone who is your opposing force and you want to grow, you want to get taller, and for me it's growing deeper in my faith and getting to know the Lord better and growing higher, I need to be met with something that challenges my way of thinking. That's the opposing tectonic plate.
I'll be your opposing.
So my opposing tectonic plate, together we push up against each other and we create a mountain that is growing.
What a beautiful image.
And here's where it gets good. If we start to falter, if we start to pull away from each other, then we're only going to create rifts and chasms, and there's only going to be earthquakes and
wow,
division.
That's good.
So I really like that analogy.
Wait, here we go.
Earthquake!
Yeah, that's really good. I think that's a beautiful image when that conflict has a purpose and pushes us closer towards Christ.
Right.
That's beautiful. But as the summer went on, again, I'm like still struggling with these doubts. I'm making the decision of who I want to spend the rest of my life with. And that like terrified me. So even though we had a really good summer, I had come to the point where I was like, as good as this is, there are so many things that fill me with doubt as well. I think I want to break up with it. And this time it was not, I want to take a break, I just want to take a step back and reevaluate. I was like, I think I just need to end this. I don't have clarity, and so it needs to end. So at the end of the summer, I sat him down and I told him, I think we need to part ways forever.
And that would have been incredibly hard by itself, but just 1 week earlier we had committed to work at camp for the next year together. And this was also 1 week before my birthday.
Yikes. In my mind, like we were done. Like this was it. It was over. We were broken up. I felt completely separated from it. During that month, I was able to see our relationship with the most clarity that I ever have before, without being, in it and emotionally invested and, all the complications that come along with that. I was able to step back and just like look at the last year instead of just being like caught up in all the doubts and all the reasons why this relationship can't work.
Right.
For the first time, I was seeing how we challenged each other and how we complimented each other. I honestly, looking back, think that breakup was essential to see our relationship clearly for the first time. All of a sudden, God completely changed my heart. I don't even know how to explain it because it's hard, like looking back at who I was prior to that breakup, just questioning everything, worrying, overthinking, overanalyzing. And then the Lord just gave me this peace that exceeds all understanding. It wasn't of myself. And I realized that we were meant to be. Which sounds super cheesy, but I realized that this man, I wanted to marry him, which is really strange because we were broken up at that time. After that month of being broken up, he was willing to take me back after all the crap I had put him through and the emotional damage I had done to your heart. Within months, I was already hinting at
Within weeks. We got back together in like October, and it was early November that she would see a billboard for a ring or something and say, that's a pretty cool looking ring.
I mean,
I don't know. I don't know what you're thinking, but that's a good looking ring. What do you think about that ring? I needed a minute.
Yeah, understandably.
It was hard for me because it was like, not that I thought that there was a chance that we would break up again or that you weren't committed, but I just subconsciously needed to be excited about marriage. I'll be honest, I wasn't that excited at that moment.
Yeah.
I was ready to be in a relationship. I was ready to work.
a lot. I feel like I'd hurt you a lot.
Yeah.
And I was all gung-ho, like the Lord had changed my heart. I was ready to go. But like you were still reeling from what I had done to you.
I think there were just some things that I had internalized, some hurts and frustrations, and it was a good time to just get to know each other in the context of commitment. I had never known a Ruth who was as excited as I was.
Yeah.
December, I went home to spend the holidays with my family, and I was looking at rings. Ended up buying a ring in January. So then February rolled around, I was committed. I had a ring in my pocket that was just burning a hole, itching to get out, and I set the date. I was gonna propose.
We will probably end it there and maybe tell you that story another time, since this is getting a little bit lengthy. We could talk about this a lot. I like to share our story because working through what it means to choose a mate is not all fun and games.
Yeah.
And I want people to know that that's okay and that is normal. You can work through that, especially if you work together as a team. So we wanted to share, just before we close, a few takeaways that we got from our years of dating and want to share with you that will hopefully help you in your relationships. Sure. So the first one, like I was saying, is that not everyone's relationships look the same. Right. You cannot compare your relationship to anyone else's. It took me so long to realize what we had was really good. To that point, like, spoiler alert, we've been together for 4 years since that last breakup, and it has in a lot of ways been that honeymoon phase. For 4 consistent years, we haven't wavered. Not to say that we won't someday, but we've learned a lot about communication and how our relationship is just different, and we've worked through so much grief that now when we struggle or fight, it's more just like, okay, you brought something that's counter to what I expected. That's exciting. Let's talk about it. How can I learn from this? We're a team. We're a team. And our final takeaway is just to get to know each other's upbringings, get to know your partner's parents and where they grew up, and that will tell you a lot about who they are, the way they think, the way they act. You are products of your upbringing and being understanding of that. And just because you were raised differently doesn't mean one way is better or worse. Not at all. It's just different. It's the mountain analogy. We needed both foundations to establish what we have now. Right. And it's been really good. It's been awesome. I feel like just talking through that, it sounds like we had a really rough time. We love each other so much now. We're best friends, which is just such a blessing. We have so much fun together. I couldn't ask for a better relationship or partner to have. No, I couldn't either. It's the best. So people tell you marriage is hard, but it can also be so much fun. Also, we're only like 4 years in, 3 years in, so what do we know? Take everything we say with a grain of salt. Yeah, maybe we'll give you an update in like 10 years. Thank you guys for listening to our story. Thank you for watching. We can't wait to tell you more about our proposal story and hopefully show you our wedding video eventually. Yeah. But for now, we're gonna sign off. We love you guys. Thanks for joining us on this journey. Absolutely. And we'll see you next week.